Okay, welcome up back, everybody. This is video six, and it is about self care. So we've discussed in self compassion and the stress video that we've come to a conclusion that life can be stressful, right? And it's been most especially stressful over the past few years. We've had, as a society, we got through COVID. On top of COVID, there were riots. There was an escalation in school shootings. There's been lots of people who are struggling with trauma, being in the situations that I named previously. And then there's helping professionals that are experiencing secondary trauma because they're dealing with clients who have been involved in these big traumas. Sometimes you can struggle with secondary trauma, seeing things and watching it on the news, which for some people is very important to just kind of turn the news off because it's just too much. For some, um, self care, has become a little trendy because, on TikTok videos and Instagram, you can see girls just kind of doing their self care routines, the little facials, massages, little things like that. And although those are really great things, techniques to use, self care is larger than that, it's bigger than that. It's, it's more about taking care of your overall health, and we'll definitely get into that. And so I do want to stress throughout this video, if I don't say specifically, it is very important to have your own self-care habits so that mentally you're in a good space. So self-care is taking time out to do things that help you live well, right? And improve your physical and mental health. And that's the piece, that physical and mental health piece is what I think people don't understand, because again, getting your nails done is a good technique, and it'll make you feel good, like looking at your nails and looking at the cute color. But it's still a little bit more than that, right? And so there's a lot of evidence out here, that self care can reduce your anxiety and depression. Of course, it reduces stress. We've talked about that several times. It improves concentration. It can help you minimize your anger, increase happiness, and improve your energy, right? So, from a physical health perspective, it can help reduce heart disease, stroke, and cancer. A lot of people don't really understand the relationship between stress and those diseases, the heart disease, stroke, and cancer. And we talked about that a little bit in the previous video. So most adults that are that are older have spent years of their lives taking care of others, whether it's raising children, their parents, taking care of their grandchildren, someone that was ill, like, family members, your mother or your father, and, serving as a caretaker, it takes a toll on you. And, sometimes, being in the house with parents who expect you to be high achieving, and if you're struggling, um, and you're doing the best you can, but they're still pushing you to get straight A's, and the best you got in you is a B minus. That can be stressful over time, that demand, and then them not listening because they're like, oh, I know you can do better. I've seen you do better, but I can't do better right now. That can become very stressful. And a lot of people don't think kids are under stress unless it's some insurmountable thing that happens and that the adult can identify as stressful. And it's like, well, no, I've been telling you this is stressful. So it becomes very, very difficult to communicate that you're stressed. But that's why it would be very important for you to implement some coping strategies. So self care is different for everybody, but it's most important to choose things that make you feel restful, that make you feel good. And true self care is about, making choices that shape your life in a way that you don't need to escape from your day to day. There's a lot of people out here that just want to go away from their lives. And if you let it go on for too long, those can turn into suicidal ideations because, the stress won't go away. It seems like everything is going wrong. Your brain is negative, and so it'll make everything is going wrong. Nothing is going right. You're a horrible person. It just turns into this maelstrom of just issues, and that you don't have coping skills to just kind of maintain and just create a safe space for yourself. And so again, self-care can look like curling up with a good book or taking a nap, having a low energy day, going to the spa. I named that several times. But self-care can also be a plan to pay off your debt, because if you owe something, if you think about, borrowing a dollar or two from a friend, like when you're in school, some people think about that dollar the whole time, like, oh my goodness, I owe them a dollar, I owe them a dollar, I need to pay that dollar back. Like this, it becomes this ongoing narrative in your head. um, for adults, it's credit card bills or rent or mortgages, things like that, or not having enough money for an unexpected expense. Excuse me. So, okay. So, also self care can be re enrolling in therapy or enrolling in therapy for the first time, setting boundaries with a difficult family member. Setting boundaries is really important. We've talked about it previously, but a lot of people think boundaries are about other people. But boundaries are really about you understanding what your limits are and then being able to not create, excuse me, communicate those limits to other people. So, um, how do you start practicing self care? Well, one of them is sleep consistently. You can't, sleep is really great for you. Most of us need 7 to 9 hours of sleep. And if you can't get that in a full night, let's say if you're getting 6 to 7, then if you have an opportunity to take a nap, then that would be great too, so that you can get the benefits of just kind of a full and restful sleep. And I can attest to the fact that your body responds very well when you get a full night's rest. Um, uh, and just make sleep a priority. There's some people that say they can operate on 4 or 5 hours of sleep. I don't know how that's possible, because if I get 4 or 5 hours of sleep, I'm dragging all day. My mental acuity is off. I can't remember things. It's difficult to focus, and all I feel is this blanket of exhaustion. So I don't know how people do that. So, in the benefits of sleeping, you feel better, like your mood is better. It's better for your immune system and your brain. Like, there's so many things that that sleeping helps. And again, sleeping is a part of self-care, because no naming the things that can go wrong or are affected by you not getting enough sleep. Getting the sleep will reverse that, which, in my opinion, is a part of self care. Understanding that I need to take care of myself, and especially not losing sleep because you're helping other people, or you're staying on the phone with someone because they want to talk about their boyfriend for the 19,000th time, right? Well, no, I don't have time to talk about him tonight. I'm going to sleep. I really have to be up early tomorrow to do a test, whatever it is that you feel like. Even if you say, well, I don't know if I have the room or the space to listen to that right now. I've had a bit of an overwhelming day myself. Another thing you should do as a part of self care is eat regular meals. I often hear clients say that they only eat one meal a day because they're moving around so much. They haven't been able to just kind of take care of themselves. Well, your body needs consistent fuel to operate. We all know that. You have to maintain consistent blood sugar levels for you to feel like you have the energy. So once your energy is low and you're working all these hours, your blood sugar is off, your mood changes. Once your mood changes, that stresses you even more. And so also, like, when it comes to eating the right thing, right? And I don't like the idea of good food, bad food, but we do know that there are certain foods that have an effect on um your system that are just not good, because if you need more nutritious meals to have good fuel running through your bodies, not for food that's going to clog your arteries. And I don't want to take this in a direction of me of it seeming as though I'm trying to tell you what to eat. I only think about eating food. Well, I've had to change my relationship with food, and I'm starting to think about it in the way that I need to eat food that sustains me, that gives me, um, um, that provides me the opportunity to be high performing. And I don't mean high performing in the sense that I'm trying to do any and everything, but high performing that if I'm allotted an 8 hour day, I want food that'll help me just kind of do that 8 hour day optimally and do it with mental clarity, not feeling sluggish or tired or sick to my stomach because I've eaten something that was just horrible. And it's still a work in progress, and it's taken me time to get there. But I do believe, just trying to eat the right thing, putting the right thing in your body, and just understanding your relationship with food too, because of course, self-care, you have to eat the food, but another component of food is not overeating, because overeating is poor self-care, right? Binge eating, just creating these just negative views and ideas around food, can be a very slippery slope. And so, another form of self care is moving your body. Exercise is very important, especially when creating a healthy lifestyle. And it doesn't always have to look like, the gym girlies, the gym rats. You don't have to train for a marathon. One of the best things you can do is walk. Just, walk around the block, walk in the park, hike, take your dog for a walk, cat for a walk if your cat is into that kind of thing. just just walking, dancing is really good. It's a really good stress reliever, really good self-care, because it makes you happy, you feel joyful. I don't know many people who I don't know if I've ever seen an angry person that's dancing. Like, can you be angry and dance at the same time? I don't know, probably. But most people that I've seen dance are really happy, and joyful, and really getting into it. And so that's just really important, just keeping your body moving. And although I said things don't have to look like the gym, but going to the gym is really good, as far as the endorphins, making yourself more flexible, you strengthening your body. It's just all around good for you. It's good for your mood. As an aside, like, I've been on a 6 month workout journey, and it has done a lot as far as, of course, improving what I look like aesthetically, but it's done a really good job improving my mental and emotional well being, right? I feel a little bit better because I'm not carrying all this extra weight. I'm feeling really good in the clothes that I'm choosing here lately. And then being a part of this gym has really brought me closer to some people that ordinarily I wouldn't meet, because they're gym people. And I wasn't anti gym people. I just wasn't in the gym to be a people. And so now that I'm there, I'm able to just kind of engage in those relationships, and they've been really great thus far. Practicing gratitude. There's a lot of research out about practicing gratitude and how it impacts your actions. And then your actions determine whatever success you have for the day, right? Because if you wake up, the first thing you do when you wake up and you're like, oh, I don't want to go to school. I don't want to talk to Miss Johnson. She's going to have a test today. She makes me sick. Ugh, and she's always talking. out the side of her neck, which makes you, upset. And then you want to tell her off too. Like if you have those thoughts in your head when you wake up, it's a high likelihood when you go to school, you're going to be in a bad mood, right? And if you're not in a bad mood, you're going to be distracted all day trying to find something to entertain you so that you can just kind of ignore that you're not in a really good space. So, practicing gratitude will help you just kind of refocus after a difficult day or in the middle of a difficult day. When I wake up in the morning, I like to clean my thoughts up. Like I want to start the day with saying nice things to myself, just kind of appreciating the fact that I'm awake for another day. I get to enjoy yet another day. Um, so I just like to just, I'm grateful. I'm grateful. And then I try to say things that affirm me. So affirmations are really good too. And we'll talk about those later, but I'm most definitely doing, just kind of showing that I'm grateful. um, I do a lot of self talk in my head also to just, because I like to have quiet mornings. So a lot of this is internal conversation. And so try it when you wake up. Try to write down 5 good things each day. And if you can't do it right when you wake up, then do it throughout the day. Notice 5 good things if you don't have a pen. But if you have your phone, I'm so old saying if you have a pen. If you have your phone, you can jot it down, right? Write those 5 things down and then repeat those things to yourself throughout the day when you feel like you're having a bad day. And then you can do the same with your affirmations. Try to relax, right? That's easier said than done for some of us. Um, Relaxation, but understand relaxation looks different for every person, right? You can read a book. Some people like to watch their favorite shows. Some people want to put on music. Some people want to talk to friends. It's really about just relaxing and doing things that make you um, feel a little calmer, feel a little happy. For me, I love a good craft. I love a good crochet. Only thing I have to think about is how I'm moving my wrist and my hands, and I'm counting stitches. Counting stitches, what way I'm supposed to move my wrist and my hand, what I'm making, all of that takes up time and space in my head. And I can't think about anything else because I'm having such a good time. Like a really good time. So, find things that bring you enjoyment so that you can continue to do them on a regular basis and just kind of feel good about what you're doing. And so be kind to yourself in a world that's just kind of focused on a lot of negativity, the next best thing, social media where people are comparing themselves to other people, and just folks are just overall not feeling good about themselves. I would be curious to see, and I'm sure no one did a study because no one thought about it, or at least very few people probably thought about the effect social media would have on people's anxiety and overall mental health, most especially their self-esteem, like how you see themselves. I think there's a lot of people struggling with self-esteem now because social media is showing the highlight reels. You think everybody's having this really great life and your life is just a big poo-poo platter. um, so um, so you know it it can be hard to be gentle with yourself, but with some practice it'll with some practice I feel like people learn to be a little bit more gentle, to be a little bit more kinder. Try to allow yourself the space to just kind of accept your best efforts. If these are your best efforts, throw away the idea of perfect. I beat that dead horse all the time. Just not one person on earth is perfect. And then if you strive for perfection and you demand perfection from yourself, you're not leaving yourself room for compassion, right? Because you're only thinking of get this job done, get this done, and get it perfectly. And if you don't do it perfectly, you're calling yourself names and saying these really horrible things internally, which again leaves you no room for compassion, self compassion. So, again, toss out that idea of perfection. While it's pushing yourself is normal, of course, right? But when you're pushing, to me, if you push yourself and you start to say these really nasty things, that's not a good way to just kind of motivate yourself. So I'm going to talk about some strategies that will just kind of help you with self-care. So one is the practice of silver linings, right? So in difficult situations, it's possible to focus on the negative, or um, or to just kind of look for the positive. But of course, I've talked about it before. But research actually shows that finding a silver lining of challenging situations can help you become happier and more optimistic, right? And the more you practice finding a silver lining, the better you'll get. And to me, like, this is an important part of self care, because you want to create practices that'll help you be happier and more optimistic. So, step one in just trying to create a positive mindset, and this is again a part of this self-care, is list 5 things that make your life enjoyable. These can be as general as my health, or specific as the feeling of sunshine on my skin. And this can go along with a gratitude too. So you're already just kind of doing step one. If you find 5 things that you're grateful for, those things can also be a part of that just kind of positive mindset. And so step two is a moment of frustration. So describe the most recent thing you became frustrated about. And if it's something that didn't go your way, or if you felt upset or frustrated, just write that out, right? So write out why you were frustrated, write everything that just kind of went wrong. Even to discuss what your expectations were, because sometimes we'll say, oh, I'm fine. If anything happens, it's great. It's fine. I mean, it's not a big deal, but you really do have some hidden expectations. So when things don't go your way, you can become very upset, because it's like, oh, I didn't know it was going to go like this. And so if you're saying something like that, then you had some hidden expectations. But anyway, step 3 is spend some time reflecting on the silver lining from the situation in step 2, and describe 3 of the silver linings. So in step 2, you're writing out all your frustrations. So if one of the things is frustrating is I got into a group argument with my friends, and 2 of them aren't speaking to me. Well, if you have 5 friends, then there's 3 that are speaking to you. That's the silver lining, right? You didn't lose all your friends. And it's finding that because, to me, if you take that same scenario, and if you're grateful that you have 3 friends left, then your focus should be, let me focus on appreciating the friends that I do have left and having a good time and fun with them, versus me being angry with the 2 friends that left. Because I mean, some of us have gained friends, lost friends, especially in grade school and high school. Like, sometimes it just happens. Oh, in middle school, I don't want to forget middle school, because it's probably most especially happens in middle school. And so you gain and lose the same friends. But if you're just again focus on the friends that you maintained, and just spend your time with them, and you won't even, before you realize, those other 2 friends may come back, because they may decide, you know what, I miss you. This hasn't been a really great experience. And you haven't done anything to just kind of or instigate any arguments or drama. And so also doing some self exploration and improvement is a part of self care. So figure out, like, who am I? Who do I identify? How do I identify myself? And am I comfortable with the way I identify myself? I remember as a traumatized child, like, having some serious issues with imposter syndrome. I often tell a story in session about me going to college and making straight A's. Like, I mean, really, I was killing it. But I I remember this study partner of mine, Kelly. We went to school together, and we had like two classes together, two or three classes together, depending on the semester. And we took those classes together, and I would have two or three classes on my own, again, depending on the semester. And I was still getting straight A's in the classes that I had on my own. But in my head, because I felt like an imposter, I was getting straight A's because of her. She was the one who, me studying with her and, doing the drills, like that's what was getting me, A's. And finally, she helped me realize, like, no, she was like, when it comes to these cards, she was like, you're the one creating these cards. Like, I'm doing it every now and again, but for the most part, you're the one that's doing it. I don't take the other classes with you. And so when she brought that to light, it helped me to understand, yeah, like, okay, wait, maybe I am smart. And again, like when you're a traumatized person or you're dealing with mental health issues like anxiety, depression, low self-esteem, all of those things just kind of skew how you feel about yourself. And identity exploration will just kind of help you decide, like, this is who I am and this is what I value. And we'll talk about that value set in a minute. And so, again, identity is how you think about yourself, how you describe yourself, how you present yourself. A lot of people don't know how to do that. Like sometimes when you go up to someone, well, tell me a little bit about yourself. It's like, that feels uncomfortable. I don't want to tell you about myself. That might be, and it's not for everybody, but for some people, that might be indicative of you just not feeling comfortable with who you are. And so you're not going to repeat back all the negative things you say to yourself to another person. Like, tell me about yourself. Well, I feel like I'm lazy. I am stupid. I am so ugly. I'm fat. I never do anything right. Like, I'm this loser. I'm unworthy of love and affection. Like, you would never tell someone that. And so that's why it's uncomfortable for some people to just kind of tell people a little bit about themselves. Before I was comfortable telling people that, I remember going through the same thing, before I was comfortable with who I am now, I remember struggling with the idea of that also. And so, developing a strong identity can give meaning and direction to your life. Like once you decide, hey, this is who I am, this is the way I feel comfortable, like this feels like an authentic life and self to me, I'm going to just kind of go with that, right? It'll just kind of help you also get to know distinct part of yourselves. And to me, once you can identifiably say, this is who I am as a human being, as a person, I'm comfortable with this, that makes you less stressed, right? And in my experience, it makes you less stressed. And it also puts you in the position where you can create stronger boundaries, right? So if my boundary is, I am not I don't want to go to jail, right? I don't want to struggle. I don't want to do certain things. Like and I'm not going to say the boundary wouldn't be I don't want to go to jail. The boundary is I respect myself enough not to put myself in a position where I will either go to jail or make a really bad decision that will alter my life and I won't be able to take that back. Um, so that's my boundary. So if somebody says, well, let's go joyriding, and they come up and they have a car, I never seen this car before. I know him and I know your mama don't have a car. I'm not getting in that car because the likelihood that it's stolen is probably high. And if it's not, I still don't want anything to do with it because we all shouldn't be in a car joyriding. So I mean, and I'm not saying that in a lecture sense, but I'm just saying that as far as an example, right? Knowing who you are just really helps. Um, so part of my identity. So if part of your identity is that you're kind, then on a scale of 1 to 10, how kind are you? 10 being very kind. Well, I'm about an 8. So what does it mean to you to be a kind person? Well, it means that people can count on me and that I can help people in a way that I like, and I take joy in caring for others. So that's how you would rate your kindness, right? Then there's other things that you can do as far as making sure that you are doing what you can to assess how you're taking care of yourself. There's self-care assessments out here that you can actually take to evaluate in what way am I taking care of myself, right? And to me, the assessment, I love assessments. I did not love statistics when I was in school, but I do love assessments and probably will always love them because it's a surefire way to just say, this is what's going on with a client. Because what I've learned is people will get, not to get on a big soapbox, but people get a million diagnoses, and and you don't know which one is right because you could go into 5 different doctors' offices and get a different diagnosis when it comes to mental health. And so assessment just kind of cuts out all that red tape. You get to know what's going on with you right away. And so that's why I suggest self-care assessments to people, because in one section, it talks about your physical health. Are you eating healthy foods? Are you taking care of your personal hygiene? Are you exercising? Wearing clothes to help you feel good about yourself? Eating regularly? So imagine if you are a depressed person and you have this self-care assessment and you're not really finding that internal motivation. And so you're like, you know what? I'm going to go to a self-care assessment. I'm going to look at this every day. If I'm not doing the things that's at least in the physical care, right? Getting enough sleep, resting when I'm sick. I mean, when I resting when I'm sick, or taking care of my physical health. Like if I'm not doing those things, then I know I have to do something a little, I have to do something better, right? If another section is your emotional self-care, your social self-care. If all of those things are limited and they're not going well, or they're not going right, I don't want to say right, so I mean going well, because I don't want to make it, I don't want your self-care to become regimented. What I would like is for your self-care to help you along the way of growth. And so that's why I mentioned the assessment, and that's why I also mentioned just kind of identifying things in regards to who you are, because that to me is a really big component of self-care. Like, who am I? How do I plan to live out my life? Uh, what behaviors, excuse me, can I get rid of, and that I need no longer because I don't have to be in a protective state? And I think I might talk about that in a video. That might be a great video, because there's still a lot of us that were traumatized humans, that sometimes those triggers don't go away, and we're exhibiting these protective behaviors that we can just kind of release because we don't need them anymore, and we can trust ourselves to just not use them, and just to use our self-care. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys on the next video.